I'm not mad that Panasonic, the video-centric company, came out with a photo-centric camera. Still does video. They put in a Scout's honor on that one. They threw a lot of what they could in there, and it's decent for some. I don't even mind the thing existing in my three-dimensional world. In fact, I think there was a meeting about it, and it was a good meeting. All right, fellas, I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of getting pushed around over here. We're a laughingstock of the camera industry. Enough of this. Here at Panasonic, I just rewrote our motto. You want to hear it, Johnson? We're almost as good and cheaper. Mess with us now? Sir, that's a little underwhelming. What do you mean? Like, we're almost as good? That's going to go right in our slogan? I don't know. Like, can't we reach for the stars? Like, surpassing what's already out there. That's the goal, right? Make a better camera than what already exists. Better is hard, Johnson. I don't know if you know this, but Canon, Nikon, and Sony are in an Illuminati-type group. They have meetings in tree houses. I was invited once. I was climbing up the rope ladder, and then they started cutting the ladder, and I was like, what are you doing? I thought you invited me. It was a joke that I was invited. They didn't want me there. There was a pool of alligators at the bottom of that thing. You know how I survived? By being good enough for cheaper. I scavenged cheap goods, and I did the best I could. That's why I'm here today. And that's what I continue to do here at Panasonic. Things are okay. They're not as good, but they're cheaper, are they not? You've done just fine, boss. You scavenged some good stuff in that dirt. But like, it's kind of time to move on. We're a video-centric company here. We don't want to release like a photo-centric camera in today's world. But if we did, it would be class leading, right? Like the highest megapixels or what were your thoughts? Listen to this camera. 44 megapixel. I know it's not 60, but it's faster, but surprisingly slow in a rolling shutter fashion. It's a funny one. We're gonna focus on the speed at the slowest possible outcome. And then, after our photos are done being taken, we have some video. 8K anyone? What does Canon do? 8K 60, raw internal. Okay, we're not gonna match that, but we're gonna do 8K, aren't we? Boss, I never thought I'd say this, but here's my resignation letter. This is just notes about the video. It's not even a thing. You're fired.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
Okay, we have a lot to get to here. I made a lot of notes. I reviewed the reviews. I saw spec sheets. I noticed some stuff. There's some quirks in this camera. Something's good. Some class leading that I'm excited for at least future bodies. Like, holy shit, Panasonic's doing that. Can't wait for that in the S1H II. We're on the Nikon Z6 III, of course, the S1R II killer immediately. Even though you're not quite as high megapixels, your video specs are class leading in every other way. So first, let's be nice. Panasonic has released a very high megapixel photocentric camera that can take beautiful shots, little burst modes of the IBIS moving 177 megapixels or something. That could be cool for some stuff. Beautiful images, I imagine. Some Leica lenses on that. Panasonic color science, dynamic range. Beautiful stuff. And if you want to do video, super sharp 8K, that's like very detailed. I don't need 60 frames per second in that mode. That doesn't exist, surely, in any other brand. And then you're doing like 4K 120. There's some crops. You pay some penalties, but that's okay. Did I hear about HD 240 in there? Haven't heard anybody mention that. No one seems to care, even though it's the most fun spec you could ever have, and you go around your city and you film unsuspecting people and they're like, what happened? Am I in a movie? Let me just scour these notes for positive things that I clearly wrote some good things. 32-bit float audio, although you need a special, fun, expensive adapter that you have to plug in, only XLR mics. It's not like I'm getting mic jack right in there, 32-bit float. That didn't sound positive on the surface, but it was. Cine-like A2, that could be fun for just straight out of camera cinematic look. I want to see it. Can't wait to see it, but would I just shoot log and do it myself? Probably, but that could be fun. Real-time LUTs? Wow, imagine monitoring your LUTs. If I had red LUTs in here on that screen, that would change my life. Even though I'm not looking at the screen for 99% of my shots, that's fine. I need those real-time LUTs. False color? That's a thing. That's a thing. I have it in the C70 and never use it. Zebras are fine for me. That false color is weird and confusing, but that was positive. But this is where a good cop dies. He goes on a donut break and he never comes back. Panasonic has released a very confusing camera to me. Just on paper, I'm seeing it as they went for 44 megapixels because it's so much faster than the 60 megapixel sensor that Sony uses, but it's so slow somehow. Gerald was saying like the rolling shutter in almost every mode was like unusable level, and it's like so, how, I don't get the disconnect. Like we went for a faster sensor. It's so slow. I'm so sorry about that. I don't get it. Like their motto now is, we're not quite as good as the competition, but we're cheaper, are we not? Like that's a literal real thing. That's what they focused on. The S5 II is fantastic for the price. You cannot beat that image. Just 4K 24p, the best stabe in the business, is cheap. You're not getting a lot of bells and whistles with it, but it's much cheaper than the competition. And that's what they're continuing to do with the S1R II. I just wish they were pushing forward and saying, I'm gonna beat the Sony a7S III one day. And like, it's better. Look at that. Like, Sony wowed us with that. Where's the next iteration? Like, there's no RAW internal except for ProRes RAW, which DaVinci, your partner in your alliance, can't use. It's very confusing to me. You're in a brotherhood. Blackmagic is one of those brothers, and they use Blackmagic RAW. They have DaVinci. You guys don't talk in those meetings. You're not brothers, you're hated rivals, siblings that want to kill each other. But the reality is like the Canon R5 II, that does 8K 60 RAW, but it's more money. So Panasonic, instead of trying to compete with that and say like, this is our big megapixel version, they didn't. They just spent way less money and they're catering to a different group, and you're not getting 8K 60 and not RAW at all. You're getting slow rolling shutter 8K 30 with 420, not even 422. Where's my 444? I don't even know what I would do with the colors, but I want it. It's weird because this is a photocentric camera, so we shouldn't even be talking about it for video, but most people know Panasonic as a video-centric company, and even this camera has like all these video tools. They're obviously promoting it as high-end video, but like the stuff that you get, the open gate, 6.2K 30p only. You're not getting any, like not even 60p in that. So like your anamorphic, that could be fun. 8K anamorphic in the future might be fun. Might roll your shutter out the window though. A little wavy on those actions. I love that they have this dynamic range boost thing, extended dynamic range, and it's almost like a DJI sensor of the Canon C70, but it isn't. And it doesn't work past 30 frames per second. That hurts. Like mine works at 4K 60. I don't get it in 4K 120. So like some cripple hammers were existing, but that's not bad. For the C70, 4K 60 with DGO, you're doing it kind of at 4K 30. The biggest plus that I forgot to mention in my positive, super positive earlier section was they now have cropless electronic stabe. That's brilliant. Like, I can't wait for that to come in a better camera. And it's like, wow, look at that. Like, added bonus stabe with no penalty whatsoever. Like no crop. Don't even know how they do it. Don't even want to know. But like that's a fantastic innovation coming from Panasonic. They're the best in stabe. Still are, always will be. And they're using it and they're advancing even further. Like somehow they're doing electronic digital stabe with no crop whatsoever. We don't even know where the extra information comes from. Like only Panasonic knows these wizards, and I'm all for it. So Panasonic has some reasons, and we're waiting for the S1H II. That should have been first. Not sure what the holdup is on that one, but first we get this photocentric thing that does some video poorly, but is cheaper than the R5 II and the Z8. But like, even comparing it to this, which is much cheaper than the S1R II. Less megapixels, but I'm doing 6K 60 RAW. You're doing 6K 60 not RAW with a 4% crop. That's not much, not even worth mentioning. You do 4K 120 with 10% crop, I need 50%. That hurts. I do HD 240 with autofocus. I don't think you even do it. And if you even attempted it, which you didn't, it's manual focus only. We know that. And that's just this utterly younger sibling to the Z8, which crushes your dreams. That's doing 8K 60 RAW, 4K 120 RAW, no crop. Added additional crops if you want them, 2.3 times with no penalties. It's like, that's the better camera in my eyes. But like, you have a cool flip up, tilt out screen. It's not as thin as Sony's, but it's almost as good for less money. Way cheaper. So cool camera, is fun to talk about, but like, we're all waiting for the S1H II, and hopefully it's not like a replica of this where it's cheaper than what you would expect from the ZV-E1, but like, it's not quite as good. Hopefully it's not just like 6K 60, not RAW. Yay, like you're not even matching my Nikon Z6 III. Like, hopefully that's not what we're getting. Like, we're actually shooting for the stars on something new. Some like super dynamic range boost. It's like, how did they do that? They have a DGO sensor plus a dynamic range boost thing. I don't even know how they, like, something new needs to happen for you to compete with Nikon, Canon, Sony, Fuji, Olympus, OM System. They made sushi once. What is your thing? It's gonna have the best stab in the business? Okay. Where's my telephoto prime? I'm not using that Sigma 300 to 600. It's too heavy. I don't need, I'd have to go on a wrist diet. Some foods that drive nutrients to the wrist bone to even hold the thing. I'm not into that. I have enough problems. That brings us to a strange purchase announcement that I just went through. I was debating, you know how I'm always considering like selling this for the wildlife, just to downgrade something lighter, something, I never find it. It's just squirrels, and I'm literally embarrassed every time I use my $10,000 setup. I'm like, what am I, oh God, I suck at this. So like, I'm always thinking of downgrading, and initially it was gonna be the Fuji XS20 with the 500mm prime, slightly less weight, and that would be fun. But what didn't crop into my mind was the Canon 600mm Tony 11 on the R5 II. Might be just ghetto enough. That lens, it's so light, it's even lighter than the Fuji APS-C. Not much ton on that one, but I don't deserve it, clearly. So I just pounced on the 600mm Tony 11. Found the deal of the century. It was like $650 Canadian, but also this $75 off code from AliExpress. Sure, it's probably a replica, not even the real lens, but I'm gonna do a comparison with this and the 600mm prime versus on the C70 for now, and we'll see, because they both crop in 4K 120 basically. Super 35 versus you're doing that here. So that'll be somewhat in the ballpark of, should I buy the R5 II? And that will funnel us into a whole new universe. Notice how Panasonic wasn't on any of my desire lists. I'm still waiting. I hope they do something soon and fun. Best stay, like a little vlogging cam with like nice dynamic range and the best slow-mo specs you ever seen. That's all I want. Panasonic all the way, and I'll get my Leica lens, 50mm Tony 2. I'll spend. I will spend for that lens. So that's what Panasonic did today. Not a whole heck of a lot for us video shooters. You could get obviously brilliant looking footage from it. It's just there's a lot of quirks, and compared to the competition, is it worth it? You're definitely not switching into L-mount to get this thing. Some of you might. There's the odd person's like, I can't wait. I doubt it. I doubt you even exist. You're lying to yourself. But it could be okay. What do you think of this release? It's not like a ton, like, whoa. It's Bitcoin-worthy donations. It hasn't crashed. I didn't lose like 40% of my earnings overnight. I wasn't in the fetal position before making this video. I'm totally fine. I could afford bagels to feed squirrels with my new 600 Prime. Not bad. I'll leave now. Subscribe to my last center. These are just notes about your high school